Welcome back to the dojo, everybody. This is TruTalk with TruMotion, where a couple of guys talk about how to make the world a better place and hopefully make your day a little bit better in the process. My name is Mark, followed by my co-host Steven.
Hello.
Let's get things kicked off. Well, we have a very special group or couple in the dojo today. First time ever, I can honestly say, social media influencers. I've never had a chance to get to know any of them or meet any of them or talk to them. You've heard about them. It's like they're these wild creatures out in the wild. You know they're there because you see them, but you never know them. So we have Chris and Amanda Provost in this dojo today. So thank you for coming, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. We're thrilled to be here.
Thank you. We are so excited.
Yeah, so how we know these guys is their son Miles trains with us, and he is one of the gems of the dojo. He is a great kid. He's always working hard. And then finally, we were just kind of like, hey, one of the days in classes, we're like, hey, what do your guys' parents do? And they're like, my dad works for Disney. And I was like, what? Your dad lives here, right? He goes, yeah, but he works for Disney. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense, dude. What do you mean he works for Disney? He goes, he makes videos and, like, Disney pays him. And I was like YouTube videos? And he goes, yeah, my dad does YouTube videos. And I was like, get the heck out of here. And I was like, I've never known anybody that does that.
Yeah, that's what's interesting because he says all the time, he's like, my dad works for Disney. I actually don't work for Disney. We just do like a YouTube videos and stuff like that. But I go to Disneyland all the time.
Yep.
And so, yeah, the same thing was in school. They were asking, like, you know, they're going around and talking about, like, what do your parents do? And he's like, oh, my dad works for Disney. And people are like, that? Oh, really? And so the teachers asked me, I'm like, I don't work for Disney. I wish I did, but we do YouTube videos about Disney.
You're
about
not
Disney.
technically a cast member. And I did hear him tell friends one day, like, oh, what does your dad do? And he said, well, my dad just goes to Disneyland.
Yeah.
And they were like, what?
Like, what?
Yeah, what?
Are you sure he works?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's awesome. Like, man, what made you kind of like, hey, think I'm going to go to Disney and talk about it, and it's going to be my main source of income?
Yeah, well, that was never the intention. We used to live in California. We lived in a place called Irvine, which is about 15 minutes away from Disneyland.
Oh, I love Irvine.
Oh, yeah, we did too. It was great. And
our old USSD headquarters was in Irvine. We used to have and the offices in our supply company was off of like 7 Hubble Drive.
Oh, yeah. I know right where that is.
Yeah.
That's actually Taco Bell, the headquarters is also located right over there.
Yep.
Yeah, the headquarters right there. So we lived in Irvine, and we had annual passes, and Amanda and I, we would go to Disney. How many times would we go a week?
Oh, pretty often. Because sometimes we would even just go to dinner, go ride Pirates of the Caribbean, and leave. So even if it was just a short little trip, we were in the parks frequently.
Yeah. Miles was a baby. We had him in a stroller, and the stroller laid back.
Okay.
And so we would go there, and Amanda would get popcorn, and she would just put in the stroller, and he would fall asleep, and it was just a really fun time. Well, I had a friend down there who was like a director down in L.A., and he's like, you should do, he's like, every time you go to Disneyland, you tell me a fact about, because I'm a big history buff, particularly about Disney, like secrets that most people don't know. It's fascinating to me. And he goes, you always tell us this really cool facts about Disneyland that I didn't know, and you should just make some videos about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that'd be fun. It started literally as a hobby, 100% a hobby. I was doing like one video a week. I would go, and the types of like facts I tell, like for example, Disney has different lands. Maybe those who aren't familiar with it, they have like Adventureland, like New Orleans Square, Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
Like Adventureland, for example, it's the only land they won't sell popcorn or churros because they're afraid the smell will take away from the ambiance of that particular land. So it's like little cool facts like that.
And now that you say that, you're like, oh my God, I've never seen popcorn or churros walking through Adventureland.
Yeah, exactly. So I started doing one video a week about that, just about their rides, or attractions, or history, or something cool like that. And it just was a hobby, and we just started growing and growing. Eventually, the company I was working for moved us here to Utah, and the channel got pretty big, and I was trying to balance it.
Yeah.
And I'm a risk taker, and my wife Amanda is not a risk taker. But at this one point, it was reversed. She told me, she's like, this is a unique opportunity. She goes, you need to do this full time. Quit your job. And she goes, let's travel. We'll do this world tour. We'll go to all the different Disneys around the world, and you do all the history. And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, you got to do this. And so I ended up doing it, and then the channel just ended up taking off. And it's really because Amanda pushed me to do it. I was kind of scared to do it.
Well, it's honestly, when you're working for yourself like that,
Yeah.
it's a ride or die thing where all the success, 100% your credit.
Yeah.
All the failures, 100% your credit.
Well,
and it's like,
yeah,
oh God, it's nerve wracking.
I love that you said that because I like to. The way I think of it, it's bicycle versus jogging. So like when I work for a corporation, I feel like that's on a bicycle and I get momentum. I'd be doing really good work, but then there's days you don't dial it in as hard.
Yeah.
But you coast.
Yeah.
When you're working for yourself, it's like jogging. If I stop jogging, I stop moving, there's no coasting.
No.
And so you constantly have to keep going forward and keep trying to do that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun though. It was kind of scary. What happened is we started this world tour.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be gone for like 4 months. We're doing every Disney around the world. We got to Disneyland Paris, and that's when the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Okay.
And they ended up sending us back. We came back, and we're like, everybody's like, oh, it only lasts for 2 weeks. And of course, everybody knows what happened.
Yeah.
And I told Amanda, I'm like, we're in trouble because I had quit my job, and now we're doing this. And I thought nobody's going to ever, what are we going to do? But it actually was the exact opposite. I think people started watching more. We started doing at-home content.
Yeah.
And we did one where it was Amanda's idea where we did a Disneyland at home.
Right.
Oh.
And I got to do Splash Mountain down our stairs, and then Chris splashed water on me. So we got very creative, but people were watching YouTube during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the parks opened back up and as things opened back up, and Chris was able to get back into the parks and doing those secret revealed videos of the different Disney parks and other theme parks really around the world.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that at Disneyland at home, we tried to make all the rides in our basement.
Mm-hmm.
And like Amanda said, she went down in a sled on stairs, and I threw water on her. And we're just trying to be silly.
Yeah.
Well, that video got huge, and we ended up getting contacted by, it was like the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company, and they had us like, do you mind if we show that on the news? And I thought, this is perfect publicity. This would be great. So we signed like this little waiver. And then it was like, they're like, this is what Americans are doing during the pandemic. And it showed Amanda. I was like, no.
That's not what we wanted.
And they ended up even got picked up even in Korea. Like the Korean news channels were showing it. But they didn't even ask for permission. They were just showing Amanda going down the stairs.
They just made fun of us.
Yeah, making fun of Americans. And I was like, oh my gosh.
It was just fun.
It was a lot of
Whatever.
fun.
They just
Yeah.
they don't have any sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Koreans or British people.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. It's funny that you mentioned the pandemic. And that's when things really kind of started to take off for you. That's honestly when the dojo went up too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which you would think pandemic would it killed a lot of small businesses.
Right.
But when that happened, we all came together as a little group and we're like, we're doubling down.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we're not closing, we're actually doubling everybody's lessons, whether or not they want to come in or stay at home, but like we'll suspend group classes.
Right.
We won't do group classes, but we're doubling up everybody's personal lesson. We'll do them on Zoom if you want to, or if you don't want to do Zoom, like I will be in the dojo and we will do it.
You know what's interesting is, so for our social media, our son Miles, we don't really show him. We don't.
Right.
He's not the focal point. He's rarely ever in that. But he did the karate tournament a couple years ago or whatever, and he won a trophy.
Yeah.
And that was one of the few times we posted that on our social media because he was so proud. He wanted to tell people he won that trophy.
Yeah.
And so he did a little video on, I think it was on our Instagram account, and we had dozens and dozens and dozens of families reach out and told us that after that they went and had signed up their sons or daughters for karate lessons or taekwondo lessons for all around the country and around the world because they're like, that's amazing. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm glad to see that because I think it's good for kids to have the extracurricular activity.
Not only the extracurriculars, but the fact that they worked for something and they earned it.
Yes.
Huge deal nowadays because that's not necessarily the case with how we see society.
Yeah.
It's an instant gratification. It's like, hey, you showed up, here's a trophy.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case. Just because you showed up for work doesn't mean you're going to get a paycheck if you do a poor job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's the precedence we really try to set is you may show up and work your guts out and do your personal best and still lose.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That does not mean you are a failure. That just means at that given moment, someone else was better than you.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And you can either wallow in self-pity and be like, oh, or you can be like, all right, well, I lost today. what do I got to do to not lose tomorrow?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
And-
huge.
And that's where it's like, I think with you guys doing what you're doing with the whole, like when you're jogging and running for yourself,
Yeah.
you can't wallow in your own self-pity. And if you do, it affects the whole household and everything.
I think it's interesting because I think there's a misconception. I think a lot of people see that they're like, oh my gosh, you do YouTube full time, and that's such a foreign concept to a lot of people. And a lot of people are like, that's like a dream job, and it is. We're very blessed, but there are times it's mentally difficult because we'll do some videos and I've worked really hard on, and
Nothing.
those videos
Nothing.
tank for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then there's other videos where I'm like, oh, this is not our best work. And we put those videos, and those ones, so whenever I think to myself, this is not our best work, those are always the videos that seem to
the
go
ones
really
that
well.
go off.
But yeah, so you got to always, it's difficult because there's times when there's been videos where I put out, I'm like, put so much effort and research into it, and I'll put a video out, and then not as many people watch that particular video, and it's a little depressing. You're
Yeah.
like,
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, you worked so hard on this one. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
No, it's the same. It's the same thing if like we do like an event or something like that, and you put all this time and effort to getting it ready and like making sure you got the right information out there for people and this and that, and then nobody comes in from it, and you're like, dude, are you serious? You want to say I just wasted, quote unquote, wasted this much time. In reality, you didn't. You just invested it, and it didn't pay off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy how.
Well, I think that also though, I'm at that tournament because the judges that came in, they were from all over. I think it's from Las Vegas.
Yeah, we had some from Vegas, California.
Yeah, the judges came in, and so when Miles was doing that tournament, you know, we prepared him before.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, Miles, this is you give it your all.
Yeah.
And if you don't win, it's okay. You're going to hold your head high because you did your best. And we were telling him that this is, you know, it's an honor. And if you get a trophy, it's an honor. It's because you just did the best you could in that day, and you happen to be a little better than other people. But it ebbs and flows.
Yes, it does.
And we were watching him, and of course, as parents, it was, you know, you're like, come on, you want him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he did finally get that trophy, like it was for us, it was just so fun to watch him do that, because there are other events that we've done where everybody gets something, and then it kind of diminishes it a little bit. Yeah,
it's not special. Well, it just teaches the kids that really tried hard, not to try hard the next time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's because it's like, I got the same sign as the kid that didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I mean, and that's a harsh statement to say, but it's like that's the reality.
Yeah.
Like if everybody got paid the same amount, but yet you're doing twice as much work, why would I continue to do twice as much work?
Exactly.
So no, yeah, Miles is a great kid. Man, we love him having him in class. He's like you were talking about earlier. It was like he was sparring and the kid punched me in the face. You're like, are you insane? He's like, no, it was awesome. I punched
he
him
loves
back.
it. He loved it. It's so funny to see because like when he comes out from the sparring, he tells us Amanda, he's like, I got punched in the face. Her face just goes white.
Yep.
She's like, and he's like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I
funny.
do. Yeah, I love seeing him exit from all the classes because he has confidence. He has a sense of accomplishment. He's worked hard. He has engaged with peers and with his senseis. And it's really just incredible to see him walking out. His shoulders are back. His head is held high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He tells me everything that he's done, the drills that he's done, everything that he's working on, the kids that he's interacting with. I mean, any chance that these kids can be off of screen time and they are working hard and they're dedicated to something and they're physical, and it's also a mental exercise. I mean, just all around, it's an all around activities for these children, and I just love having Miles immersed in this.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. There's something different about Saturday sparring class, though.
Yeah.
I'll be real honest with you. It's the same thing for the adults. The adults come in. It's 9 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
So a lot of the teens and adults are like dragging in like zombies.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, this is my day. You kidding me, Sensei? This is my,
My
day
day
off.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. I've been here since 7. Like,
Yes.
put your crap on and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the end of class, they're like, all right. It's like they can literally take on the rest of the weekend.
Yes.
And it builds this. And all they were doing is kicking and punching bags and sometimes each other.
Right.
Nothing maliciously, nothing with any intent of hurting each other. But all of a sudden, you feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
An old instructor of ours, Jack Turner, he would always go up to a professor and he'd be like, "Sir, it's that time." It's like it's one of those days, and basically he would punch in for him and just get the crap kicked out of him.
Yeah.
And then for about a half hour, like throwing them on the ground, like just everything. And all of a sudden, after that half hour, he's like, all right, I feel pretty good.
He's like, let's go.
Yeah.
I got
and
this.
it's like, I always say it's like we beat the demons out of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
And it's like everybody feels so much better after Saturday sparring class.
Yes.
Well,
It's a weird phenomenon.
And you talked about, because you guys do adults, because before we started the podcast, we were talking about, because Amanda, she wants to start taking lessons and start to learn that. So you're going to be down here at the dojo.
Oh, yeah. It's great
Get some
for
bags.
kids and adults. I mean, like I was telling them, I'll just be upfront and honest. It was my therapist who told me, like, you need to get into karate. And so I think, you know, why not? Like, us adults need it just as much as the children.
Well, I think, didn't you say
Maybe
that
even
you're
more.
like, when the therapist told you that, and you're like, well, that scares me. And he's like, that's
He's
why.
like, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why
That's
you
why you
have to do it.
No.
So, yeah.
No, it's funny because kids and adults do it for obviously way different reasons.
Yeah.
Okay. Kids, we're trying to help prevent later term issues like from self-confidence or lack of that or discipline or lack of control, all that stuff. So we're trying to prevent issues from coming up. With adults, we're correcting issues and giving them that confidence and giving them that control.
Absolutely.
Like for men need to do it for the simple fact that men need to be dangerous, but they also need to know when to be dangerous.
Right.
It's like there's this old saying, you'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to know how to unleash that inner beast, but yet it doesn't come out very often.
Yeah.
If
I love
ever.
that.
You control when it comes out.
Exactly.
I
And
love
for
that.
women also need to do it to where they know that it doesn't matter what situation they get put in. It's like, that's right. I have nothing I've never seen before. And they have that confidence to fight off whoever it is that wants to give it a try.
Absolutely.
I think it was interesting. 3 weeks ago, I was invited to go to a mental health seminar. They were talking to us. They had these psychologists. I was like, why? I don't know why they're inviting me down there. But in my YouTube videos, I always try to put a positive message.
And I was going to say, that is one of my favorite parts of your videos.
Yeah.
Is when you take that little second to talk. And
Yeah.
I know, again, very corny. I'm watching on TV. You're not obviously in the room with me, but you're in the room with me speaking directly to me.
Yes.
I don't feel like you're putting on this front of like, I'm spreading this message out to everybody. It's like, no, Chris is talking to Mark.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And so they invited me because of that. And then they had the psychologist that said I'm talking. He says that right now he called it an epidemic. He's like an epidemic of loneliness.
Yes.
He's like we feel more, people are more connected, I guess, on social media, but they feel they're not connected with
Actual
people,
physical
people. And that's one of the things we love here with Miles. He's created his little tribe. He does little, the people here, and he talks about them. He talks about you guys, and so it's very interesting. I think it's healthy to be interacting with other people like that.
And it's funny talking about with COVID earlier with how it destroyed your first world tour.
Yeah.
We're still dealing with kids that have effects from the lockdown.
Oh yeah.
And not only kids, but also adults.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
To where they're nervous and they're afraid and they don't like to be around people and just all sorts of stuff I never thought I would ever have to encounter.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean your 3-year-old doesn't like running around and like being outside?
Yeah.
It's like he just wants to stay inside. It's like that just doesn't compute with me. It's like, why?
Yeah.
But it's like, and then you got to remember.
But that fear was put into them. They were so afraid.
Exactly.
They were so. I mean, I was going to. So Walt Disney World opened up in July of 2020, and I was invited to go down to a sneak preview before they opened up to the public.
Oh wow!
So I got on a plane from Utah to fly down there, and now I look back, and I was like, okay, but I was so nervous to get on that plane because I didn't know. Like, I up to that point, everything that had been in media was like this. It was just awful.
If you get it, you're going to die.
And so, and I remember I was like, should we do this or not? And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I remember flying on the plane, and I got there, and I went into my hotel room, and I literally sanitized everything in there. Yeah. And then I was so nervous, and like I was trying to social distance while I was there at Magic Kingdom. But I think that was I was terrified as an adult. So like little kids, they sense that, their parents, they sense how nervous their parents are, and then they carry that on. That's why they get, I think a lot of them are nervous about stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. like you said, kids are way smarter than we give them credit for, and they can pick up on when things are not right in the household.
100%.
They have that weird sixth sense on like, there's a disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
Where's it coming from? And they can narrow it. They can figure out who it is and why it's there.
Yes.
But they don't know what it is. They just know something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So.
And a lot of times they have a hard time communicating what's bothering them too. So
exactly.
They
They don't know the emotion to what a reaction. Exactly. But no, that's awesome. And do you have your own channel too, Amanda?
No.
Or you guys partner up and do it?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I just help behind the scenes and then sometimes in front of the scenes, but mostly behind the scenes with the channel.
During the pandemic, she did a lot of you were cooking with Amanda, and like she did like funny Disney with Amanda recipes
that you can get in the parks.
Yeah.
Since you couldn't go to the parks, you could bring them to home. Little things like that. But
that's cool.
Now we're back out rolling and into the parks, and so I do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff to keep Chris going.
There you go.
Periodically she'll do a video. Like in a week or so she'll be going down to Disney. She's doing a video. But it was interesting because of our son. We don't want him to ever really be the focal point of the channel. He's rarely in it. He just every once in a while. And when Amanda's, she's like, she pulls back. She's like, I'm going to focus on being a mom and doing that. And so we kind of do that. But she helps everything behind the scenes, like the thumbnails for the videos. And she comes up with the ideas. And she's, so we just did this one where I did a hotel tour in Walt Disney World. I stayed at 20 hotels for 20 nights. Every single Disney hotel on property, and that was Amanda's brainchild. She came up with it and planned it, and
that's a lot of planning.
It's awesome.
A lot of planning.
Oh,
holy cow! I couldn't imagine doing that.
So it was. It felt like it was Groundhog's Day because the first 5 hotels I was at, they were. So I started at what's called Value, and they have Moderate, and then Deluxe. And the Value hotels are they're different names, but they're
very similar.
Very similar.
Even the restaurants are very similar.
The food's the same.
He was eating the same food, and he was kind of in a twilight zone.
Yeah, like this is the same, but I'm in a different area.
Exactly the same. Because every morning I get up and I go to the next hotel and check in. The room's exactly the same. The food's exactly the same. So I was trying to make each video still fun and enjoyable, but it's
was this at Disney World?
Disney World, Disney World. Yeah,
I was gonna say that can't be Disneyland.
Yeah, no. Disneyland's only got 4 hotels on property, but Disney World's huge. It's got 20 and so it was crazy.
You did a great job though, and just back to back, the check-in, film, edit, check out, and it was great. And then the Moderate hotels, that you started to switch things up a little bit for you, and then their Deluxe hotels are really, really awesome. So
diverse,
that was kind of your cherry on top of the hard work, but it's really exciting.
So Amanda did plan that whole thing, and so she and Miles came out to visit me, which is interesting because they seemed to come out just at the point when I arrived at the Deluxe hotels.
What?
I don't know how that happened.
No.
I was like, what?
Hey, you're in the higher end.
Yeah, I guess I'll be out there for that. So
we'll rough it with you today. Yeah.
Awesome.
So not only on top of the YouTube channel, but we were just talking that you're also the voice of a lot of cons nowadays.
Yep. So I am the MC, so that's the master ceremonies at all these different comic conventions around the country. What that really means is like they have usually a grand ballroom where the celebrities will come in and we'll introduce them. I introduce the celebrities, I moderate them, I ask them their questions, and do like audience participation. And it's a lot of fun. I've been doing that since 2013, actually.
Okay, so quite a while.
Yeah. One of the highlights I've ever had is just about 5 months ago, I was in Indiana. They had the Indiana Comic Convention, and they had Hayden Christensen and Rosario Dawson come out. And
really?
And a lot of times they'll have what's called audience participation where they'll let the audience ask questions. But their manager says they didn't want that. They wanted all the questions to be pre-approved. And they actually requested, they're like, we want Chris to moderate that. So I was like, oh my gosh, Hayden.
That's awesome.
You met Darth Vader. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun to sit down and talk with them. And I've been doing that for just a little bit over 11 years. I travel around the country and get to interact with a lot of the celebrities and ask some questions. And
that's
it's a lot
awesome.
Of fun. Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, this has nothing to do with one of the 3.
Yeah.
But who has been the one that has surprised you on how nice they are?
Okay,
They
so
kind of have a bad rep in public or behind the scenes or whatever, but yet when you talk to them,
I think I know
they're
what
I know
you're
exactly.
trying to say.
I bet you. Okay, I'm gonna say you figure it out. Say it at the same time. So you can say it at the time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Alice Cooper.
yeah,
Yes.
Alice
Wow.
Cooper,
Alice Cooper.
really,
Alice Cooper was like, he's like this bad boy, whatever.
yeah, rock star,
Rock star.
yeah,
Just a sweetheart. Like, so nice, so kind to everybody. Like, people behind the scenes, to like a little volunteer, all the way up to like other celebrities. He treats everybody the same, and he's just awesome. And like, he's like a coach of his little league baseball team where he's at, and he's just, it's interesting because Alice Cooper is just, that's a persona that's on stage, right? So 100% just persona.
yeah.
And he is great. He was so fun, and he's great.
Okay, now the flip side,
Yeah. Oh,
someone that has like this nice like outward personality, but they're like Ellen DeGeneres.
yeah. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, but you don't want to throw them under the bus or nothing
there,
like
there
that.
are a couple. There actually, to be honest with you, there are a few like that. But I don't want to say
Yeah,
their names,
exactly.
Yeah, but there are a few
You can tell me
celebrities.
off
Yeah,
camera.
they seem pretty nice. Then backstage, they treat everybody terrible. But there are some surprising ones. So, for example, Jason, his name's Jason Isaacson. He's the guy who played Draco Malfoy's father, Lucius Malfoy, in the Harry Potter films.
Yes,
He is the coolest guy.
really.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I've heard that about.
Yeah,
him.
and he's like kind of quiet and a little more shy, and he likes to take roles that don't really work, so he could be somebody else.
Yeah,
Really cool
because
guy.
he's always taking on these like hard ass personas.
Yes.
Exactly. And
Not like that at all. Yeah.
He was awesome, and I loved how he really commanded attention from the audience. He actually told everyone, "Okay, take your pictures now, but then put your phones away." So it was a very like present,
Yeah,
engaging
he said that. He's like,
audience.
because he walked on stage, he's like, take your phones out, take your photos right now. He goes, I'll put your phones away. He goes,
And
I'm not
listen.
going to do anything crazy that you're going to wish that you were recording. He goes, but I want to be with you.
Yeah.
And
was
so
awesome.
it was awesome. My other favorite, one of my favorites, his name is Jess Harnell. He's the voice of the Animaniacs. He does a cartoon. He's also the voice of a bunch of Transformers. And he
He did a lot of voices at Disneyland too. So that's
yeah,
really
Disneyland.
Like a good
He's
connection
tons
with
of
us.
voices at Disneyland.
Okay.
But when you see him, he's like a rock. So like his hair goes down to his waist, and he wears like sequin pants and like a cowboy. He looks like an '80s rock star, like right out of Motley Crue. And when I saw him the first time, I was like super intimidated. But he has become one of my best friends,
There you
and
go.
he's great. And he actually did all the voices for Splash Mountain at Disneyland. And he does the voices of like Finding Nemo and like
Okay.
Sebastian the Crab and the Little Mermaid and the singing voice. And he's great too. He's awesome. Yeah. So I've had a chance to meet a lot. People always ask the big names, of course. Everybody, the ones people know are Chris Evans, of course. Captain
Yeah.
America he's very nice. He was actually a little more quiet.
I've heard that makes sense too.
Yes. So,
That
and then
makes
what's
sense.
also interesting to me is Salt Lake City. It's called FanX, the FanX Comic Convention, has one of the largest ballrooms in the country. It holds about 5,000 people.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most other ballrooms around other comic conventions around the country hold around 2,800 to 3,000. So ours is almost double that. And so it's interesting to see because it's almost always jam-packed, filled.
Yeah.
And the fans are just crazy there in Salt Lake. They're cheering, they yell. And you'll see a lot of these actors who, these huge multi-million-dollar films, and they come backstage and they're shaking because they're nervous to get up.
In
It's a
front of
different
people.
thing to just be looking at a camera
Yeah.
than having 5,000 rabid fans out there yelling your name and they love you. And,
Yeah.
and so it's interesting to see that a lot. And so some of them really feel comfortable with it. Other ones are a little more nervous with it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. I mean, if you've never been to a comic convention, I recommend going to. They're just a lot of fun.
They are like my wife and I went last year,
Yeah.
and we saw Johnny Lawrence. We got our picture taken.
Oh
with
yeah, the
Johnny
karate. Yeah,
Lawrence,
yeah.
Zabka,
Yeah.
and Kevin Nash.
Yeah. Oh, Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash. So interesting. I've actually interviewed Kevin Nash and but they call Billy Zabka.
Oh, yeah, Billy.
Yeah. But I moderated his panels multiple times around the country. Him and Ralph Macchio.
He seemed like a really nice guy. We didn't have a whole lot of time to talk to him.
Really good guy.
Yeah, but he
Very
seemed pretty
cool,
nice.
very kind, and awesome. But Kevin Nash he's a really funny guy, but he told a story I'd never heard before. So one of Amanda's favorite films of all time is John Wick.
Okay.
And in that scene, he plays the
bodyguard.
The bodyguard.
Yep.
And he's like, you look really good. They're speaking in Russian.
Yep.
He's like, yeah. He's like, I lost, I lost 60 stones.
kilograms.
Yeah, 60 or whatever. And he says, what I'm actually telling John Wick is there's 60 guards.
Oh.
Yeah, and he goes, that's something that the director told me. He's like, when you tell him you lost like 60 kilograms or whatever he says, he goes, you're literally telling him in code, there are 60 different guards in there. And it's literally 60 guards he goes in there in the Red Circle Club. So, but Kevin Nash is awesome too.
Yeah. John Wick is a good movie.
It's a great movie.
I honestly, when I first started it, and spoiler alert, the puppy.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I almost turned it off. I was like, I can't watch this.
It was almost too much. And I had a beagle. That was my childhood pet.
So it's even worse
So
for you.
it was even
Yeah,
worse.
at that point, like right when it you see the scene and you luckily you don't see anything.
Yeah.
You hear it, then you see the aftermath.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you take a second, you have to pause. I paused it and I was like, do I want to continue or do I want to see him just unleash holy hell on these sons of bitches?
Yes. Yes.
At that point, I chose the latter. A great movie. So.
Right.
Well, what's interesting, I think it's interesting because Amanda talks about that a lot. Because like the Marvel movies, she'll watch it, but she's not really engaged as much. But John Wick, she goes, I love it because you're saying, she goes, I feel like he's tired, he's winded. Oh, and you're like worried. You're like worried.
Yes,
it's like he's gonna make it out. Yeah.
Real. Yes, it felt real and raw. Absolutely. So FanX, though, going back to FanX, it's an incredible experience. It's really, there's something there for everyone. Obviously, we're Disney people. There's a lot of Disney stuff at these conventions, comics, of course, actors. And then I was just going to do a plug. If people were in Salt Lake City the end of September, that's FanX. And don't we have a promo code?
Yeah, if they type in PPP, just the 3 letters, that stands for Provost Park Pass. I think they get 15% off their tickets.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
So
we'll have to make sure we let people know about that.
This is piquing your interest. If you want to come, you can save a little bit of money and come, but we love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, good. Moving on with the show, we have a quick word from our sponsor.
Be sure to watch Provost Park Pass on YouTube for the best theme park and travel tips from around the world. Don't miss their Disneyland Secrets Reveal videos where you can learn all the secrets and tips of the happiest place on earth. Just type in Park Pass on YouTube and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
For the best tips and tricks, no need to ask. Just tune in now to Provost Park Pass. Discover theme parks from far and wide. Secrets of Disneyland, we're your guide. Don't miss out, subscribe today. For all the hidden gems and tips, hooray! Provost Park Pass, the place to be. For travel tips and magic, come and see. Just type Park Pass and hit subscribe. Join the fun and feel the vibe. Provost Park Pass, your guide, your friend. For theme park magic that never ends.
Moving on to our top 5, speaking of movies, John Wick. This week's top 5 are top 5 Disney movies.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, man.
Okay, so Stephen, we're going to start with you, and then we're going to kind of go around the table, and then I'll finish up real quick.
Okay.
So what do you got for your top 5?
So there's so many Disney movies.
Yeah.
I specifically went with animated movies.
Okay,
Love
I
it.
love them.
So my top 5, and this one's, for me, it's underrated. I like Treasure Planet. That's my favorite. That's my favorite movie.
We never hear anyone talk about
Nobody
Treasure
ever mentions
Planet.
I know,
That's
it's
amazing.
That's amazing.
It's the black sheep, I guess.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it is. I love it. I like pirates. So
Okay, solid.
second one's going to be Mulan,
Mhm.
animated.
Yep.
Yes.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, animated.
Mm-hmm.
First one. So next one's going to be Beauty and the Beast, animated.
Yes.
And then final one's going to be Big Hero 6.
Oh,
Excellent.
that's our
choice.
son's favorite. He loves it.
It's such a good one. And then my runner-up is going to be Cars.
Oh.
Cars? Gotcha.
So here's some good trivia, like
Okay.
on Big Hero 6. So
Okay.
they're in the city of San Francisco.
That's right.
And so in our world, in 1906, San Francisco had this massive earthquake. And then they ended up rebuilding, and I guess this earthquake was so big it almost decimated the city. But in this alternate timeline where they're at, is that Japan came in and helped them rebuild the city,
Okay.
and so that's why it's called San Francisco. They're united there between the United States and Japan. So I think it's a really cool little take on that.
And it's really awesome. Over at Disney California Adventure, they just redid a land that's now San Francisco. It opened last summer,
Oh.
and it's a ton of fun
Yeah,
because
nice.
they have
Specific work now,
Baymax. Yeah, they have Baymax. They have Aunt Cass's kitchen. You can get really delicious like ramen noodles, and it's a really fun, adorable land now. So they were able to bring Big Hero 6 into the parks, which is awesome because it really wasn't that represented. In Tokyo, they love Baymax.
Oh, it's massive.
I mean, he has rides. It's huge there, so it's fun to have a little taste of Big Hero 6 in Disneyland now, Disney California Adventure.
Because in Tokyo, Baymax is almost as big as Mickey Mouse. Like,
Oh wow.
like there's merchandises everywhere for Baymax.
Hats,
shirts,
plushies.
yeah, everything. You can
His
imagine.
ride is so popular. People wait so long for his attraction.
So his ride has 6 different songs while you go on it. It's kind of like a little bit of a spinning ride.
Yeah.
They have 6 different songs, but there's choreography for each of the songs. And so people wait in line for like an hour to ride this little ride, but the reason they're waiting is because they
Is
want
to
to wait
dance.
in line is to do those choreographed dances while they're waiting in line. So it's just
a
really
blast.
interesting.
All right. All right, Amanda, what do you got for your top 5?
Okay, mine are all over the place. So I
Okay.
like that you had a theme with animated.
Yeah.
Mine are all
That's
over
all
the
right.
place.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go 5 down to my number 1. My number 1, I've debated if I should share it or not.
I think
But I'm
if
going
you
to
don't,
share
yeah,
it.
it'd
Oh,
be super disappointed.
Don't judge me, please.
Yeah.
So number 5, okay. Let's start with Beauty and the Beast is probably my number 5. She was my favorite Disney princess and probably still is my favorite Disney princess. As a kid, that was my favorite movie. I just loved how smart she was. I thought she was beautiful, and I just got emotional talking about her, but I thought she was so caring too.
Yeah.
She just was so caring with everything that was thrown her way. She thought about others, and it was just amazing. So Beauty and the Beast is number 5. Number 4, I am going to say Emperor's New Groove is
Oh, that's
probably
a good one.
my number 4 now.
That was a good one. I love that one.
It's amazing. It's almost too funny
It's
for
too
its
funny.
own good.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
watch it multiple times. It's so funny.
I don't hear a lot of people say that that's their favorite
Crunch
because
theme song.
it's too funny.
He had his own theme song.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like,
Wrong lever. Wrong.
Yes, it's one of the most quotable Disney movies.
Mhm.
I feel like it should have more representation in the parks. I feel like there should be a roller coaster because it's that
Yeah.
roller coaster just creates.
you know
itself
that they
in
have to
movie.
be like wrong lever and it
Yeah.
shoots backwards.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, going from there, I think I'm going to say, might say Coco.
Okay.
Coco, I think is very, very, very special. I feel like a real connection to that one. The first time I saw that in the movie theater, I was hysterical. I was hysterically crying. I'm getting emotional talking about it now. And I went with Miles, and he was like, wow, Mom, are you okay? Like, this
Yeah.
isn't normal tears. Just having that connection to your ancestors and to people that have passed on.
Mhm.
There we go. Getting
Yeah.
emotional, but it's just really, really, really special.
It's near perfect.
It's a beautiful movie. So that one is probably the next one. And I'm all over the place, right? I
That's
have
all right.
Disney movies. I have Pixar. Then my next one is a Goofy movie. Now, this
Yeah.
used to be my number 1 favorite, and it still kind of is because my number 1 is off. But I love a Goofy movie. Goofy is my favorite character.
It's one of mine too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's an incredible person because Goofy is just himself. He is a goof and he doesn't care.
Nope.
He's himself. He tries to be the best dad. I love Max in it. When you're a kid, you really relate to Max. Now, as a parent, I really relate to Goofy. I love Goofy movies. So that one is number 2.
I think it's interesting though because when you do watch Goofy movie as a kid, you're like, you're like the
Just-
dad is.
Yeah.
Then when you watch
It's
it,
ruining everything.
then you watch it as a parent, you're like,
he
he
cares
just wants
so
to
much,
be with
wants
this,
a relationship with his
Max is
son.
ruining everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's that's excellent writing.
Yes.
They capture both.
And I love the songs. I can sing the songs. Okay, now are you ready for my number 1?
All right, what do we got?
This is wild. Drum roll, please. I think my new number 1 favorite Disney movie is Deadpool and Wolverine.
There you go.
I know. This
She's
is a
seen
big
it
jump.
so many times.
That's awesome.
It's now Disney. So
Yep.
Disney
Right.
now has Deadpool. They just released this movie. It's out in theaters right now. And he nods to Disney a lot of it. You know, there's a couple scenes in there, like one scene, he's like, I'm going to Disneyland. And, you know, he's like, this is the first time for Disney. And so it's crazy that Disney has their name on Deadpool, but I love his character. He's real, he's raw, he's hilarious, and that movie is just completely action-packed. I laughed, I cried, I was shocked. It was just a blast. So that to me right now is my number one.
Yeah. I just did a video about that.
Yeah,
on channel.
I just watched it this week.
Yeah, where they had, it's
Yep.
the very first time that Disney's ever had an R-rated character as a meet and greet. They had Deadpool
In their theme park.
So,
And yeah, Disney California Adventure, it's wild.
yeah, it's
That's awesome.
All right, so my top 5, I'm going to kind of go a little all over the place. So I have to say Aladdin.
Yeah,
Robin
Aladdin.
Williams' Genie is just too good, and it's just so funny. And he changed the way the animation. So before Robin Williams, it was really voice actors, and then
Yeah.
after that, he was so good that they ended up bringing a lot of movie stars to do voice acting. But the movie stars aren't usually as good as the voice actors.
No.
But Robin Williams is just phenomenal.
He's
so
great.
he is just too great. I love that. I also, then my number 4, I love this movie. I can watch it all the time. Is Hercules. I love Hercules.
Yeah.
I just think it's great. I think Megara, the girl character, is a very complex character. She's had her heart broken. She's trying to be tough, and she's, you know, and I think that goes over a lot of kids when they watch that the first time.
Mhm.
But it's just a great film, and I love that. And then my number 3 is, of course, going to be Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
I could watch it over and over. I think that you're talking about, he has his own theme song. You know, he's
Yeah.
like humming. Here's a little trivia. Yeah, a little trivia for that is Patrick Warburton did that spontaneous. That was just spontaneous.
Yeah.
Spontaneous. And afterwards, Disney went and they got a copyright on that part where he's singing. Because they said that they owned that song,
how
so it's his
fun.
song. So they actually,
That's
so they
funny.
have that song. So that way, if anybody ever uses it, they would have to pay royalties to
Yeah.
Disney for that. But I think it's just funny. He's like, yeah, it's just think his own song. Number 3 is Beauty and the Beast. I could watch that over and over. I mean, number 2 is Beauty and the Beast. I could watch that over and over and over again, and I just think it's great. And then my number 1. I didn't do Beauty and the Beast twice, right? Yeah.
No.
My number 1, and this is a Disney film. You have to realize this is 100% a Disney film. It wasn't originally, but it is now. Is Raiders Lost Ark.
Oh,
Raiders of the
yes.
Raiders Lost Ark.
Yes.
In my mind, it's
Yeah.
a perfect movie.
It's
just
a great.
Oh, it's great.
Not unless you watch The Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah, I know that makes me really angry. I don't like
Yeah.
that, but I don't believe that theory at all. But so here's an interesting when the pandemic happened. There's the little local theaters that a lot of them were struggling, and so Amanda reached out to one, and they're like, she rented out the theater one night,
Mhm.
and they said you could choose. And they gave her like 800 movies to choose from. And so it's just Amanda and I went, and she chose Raiders Lost Ark. We got to
That's
see it
awesome.
on the big screen. And we got there, they knew, because Amanda loves popcorn, loves popcorn. It's her favorite thing.
It's an addiction.
Yeah, it's an addiction. And they were aware of that. And we got there, they gave her 20 buckets of popcorn. 20.
Oh, that's
And it's just
awesome.
for the two of us. And I was like, there's no way. So at the end, they ended up pouring the buckets in like garbage bags.
Yeah.
And we went and delivered it to our friends and stuff. They're like, here's all the popcorn.
That's cool.
But yeah, Raiders Lost Ark. It's one of the few films like if it's on and I walk through a room, it's going to capture
Stop
my
and
attention.
watch
So
it,
watch
yes.
it.
And I didn't even think of it as a Disney movie, but that's in my top. That's in my
Could be your
definitely
honorable
a
mention.
favorite.
Yeah,
Oh
your
yeah,
honorable
Raiders
mention
for
for
me
sure.
is I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So
I love everything
great
about it.
choice.
Yeah,
All right,
thank
well,
you.
here comes mine.
Oh, let's hear it.
I've got as an honorable mention The Art of Skiing by Goofy.
Oh, I love
Oh my
that.
gosh.
Yeah, one of those old.
You're gonna
That's a
deep dive.
deep cut.
Because they make me like every time I go down to California and visit my grandparents, those are the only like movies that I like to watch. Because the rest of them were like Fred Astaire and
Yeah.
all that other stuff, and I was like, I want to watch cartoons.
That is so cool.
That movie, and I don't know if this makes any sense at all, is like a warm blanket.
Yeah.
That is, like when you watch it, you feel really good. I remember the scene in that where he has all the water
Yep,
bottles,
all the water bottles
hot
strapped
water bottles
against
strapped to him, and it's just so funny. It's just
Yep.
that's the perfect editing.
Yep. And then this is another old one. It's from that same genre. It's the Three Caballeros.
Oh yeah,
my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
love this.
Yep,
You're
yep.
doing
Yeah,
a deep dive.
those are the like two old ones for me.
Yeah.
But then I've got Chicken Little.
Really?
Yep.
You're kidding me.
No.
I don't think in all the years we've been doing this, I don't think anybody's ever said Chicken Little.
Really?
This
Yeah.
is the first.
This is the first.
I love Chicken
And
Little. I think it's funny.
Little.
I think it's a great story about like
Yeah.
overcoming and rising up against the odds and like always speaking the truth, and it's like,
I love it. I love these. Disney, it didn't do very well. They had like meet and greets for a little while.
Uh-huh.
They've kind of buried it because it wasn't so popular. But I am just I'm thrilled that you love that.
one of my favorite movies. You can't go wrong.
Yeah,
like Fish Out of Water.
Yeah,
So
You know,
good.
it's always dancing.
Yeah.
You know, so and then I've got Big Hero 6.
Oh,
Awesome.
Yeah,
excellent.
again, kind of the same sort of thing. And the Pirates of the Caribbean
Oh,
is second, and Peter Pan is first.
Awesome.
okay.
Yeah.
Peter Pan. Here, I'm going to give you a little bit of trivia.
All
Are you
right,
ready
I'd
for
love
this?
to hear it.
All right. This is what our YouTube channel's like. So when they made their Peter Pan attraction at Disneyland,
Mhm.
okay, the Captain Hook, his hook is on his left hand. And in the ride, though, there's a point that they have it, his left hand is fighting Peter Pan.
Mhm.
But he had the hook on it, and Peter Pan has his little dagger.
Yep.
So they ended up switching his hook. So they put the hook on his right hand in the attraction and the sword in his left hand. But when you go out on the mural, like we see it, it's the right way. So they actually switched the hook from different hands because they're worried that it wouldn't look right.
It wouldn't look right.
When it went to Florida, they're like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So they've always kept the hook on the right hand. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually know where Captain Hook got his hook from. He got it from the secondhand store.
Did he? Yeah, that's when you know it's a good joke because everybody's like, "Holy crap!"
That's exactly the reaction I liked.
You really do know? Boom!
Yeah.
Got 'em.
Dropped the bomb on you.
But
All
yeah.
right, that's my top 5. Let us know what your guys' top 5 is in the comments down below. And moving on with another word from our sponsor.
Ninjas in the house.
You check it, Dojo Vibes, got something to share. TRUMOTION merch shop, got that ninja flair. Shirts and hoodies, slick like Bruce Lee. Karate thread sharp like a kick to the knee. Custom names and colors like a lightsaber's glow. You're the Jedi, watch how your style gon' flow. Scan that code, jump in, it's time to score. With gear so fresh, you'll be wanting more. TRUMOTION merch where the fit's on point. Dressing up clean like $1 billion joint. TRUMOTION, safe stacks like Bruce. Get your swag right, man, no excuse. From the mat to the street, stepping like Jan. Gear so fly like your own stunt man. Personalize it like your own Stark Tech. Karate gear tight like a chop to the neck. You name your colors like a comic book villain. Step in the light while you're laid back chillin'. Scan the code, it's your time to rise. With your motion gear, you'll take the prize. TRUMOTION merch where the fit's on point. Dressing up clean like $1 billion joint. TRUMOTION, 10 safe stacks like Bruce. Get your swag right, man, no excuse. Yeah, TRUMOTION's the wave, call it the new rave. Get your gear, step up, no time to behave. Scan that code, the deal's too sweet. Karate swag's here, time to bring the heat.
Next section is Ask a Sensei.
Okay.
But we're renaming it today to Ask the YouTubers. Okay.
All right.
So we've already kind of answered this one, so we can go more of like a Reader's Digest version
Sure.
on it. But it's how did you guys get started into YouTubing?
Yeah, it was started off like we talked about a little bit at the
Yeah.
beginning. Just kind of started off as a hobby.
And it was cute because that was Chris at Disneyland before. So, like he kind of mentioned briefly, we would go to Disneyland. He would point out things. He would show us little secrets. And so it's not like he just had to learn new stuff about Disneyland. And like, this was him.
Yeah.
He knew this. He studied Disneyland since he was a kid. His mom wouldn't let him watch TV when he was 6, so he would read history books about Disneyland. So this is Chris. The
Yeah.
dad jokes, the Disney facts,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the love for the theme parks. It's him.
I like how you got your uniform too.
Yeah,
yeah.
And well, you know how that started because like, in the videos, I'm always wearing like a white shirt and tie. And people think I did that on purpose. So here's the behind the curtain.
Okay.
Is I was working at a professional job where I had to wear a suit and tie.
So you
I
just take the jacket
I just
off.
took the jacket off.
Gotcha.
But what I would do is I would take my jacket off and then I would go to Disney and I would take 2 ties. I just take a tie in my backpack. So I'd film one video, take the tie off, then put on another tie, and I'd film another video.
And it makes you look like
Yeah, so look like I was there for 2 days, and then I would just edit. When I first started, my editing skills were not very good. It took me a long time to edit. So I would just take some time to edit it. It took a little while. I didn't think anything of it. What happened is one day, Amanda was with me when this happened. It was the very first time I'd ever been recognized, and I think this girl's maybe 12. And I wasn't wearing my white shirt and tie. I was just wearing a T-shirt And she saw me and she's like, hey, she's like, can I get a picture with you? And I was like, sure. And then she's like, why aren't you wearing your white shirt and tie? She's like, nobody will believe me. And she almost started to cry, like this tear rolled down her. And after that, I was like, I will always wear the white shirt and tie if I'm doing Provost Park Pass stuff, because that way people they know. So it just kind of, that was just serendipity. You just kind of lucked out.
It's funny, being in Utah, you would think that you'd be like, you're the Disney missionary.
Yeah, people, I get that a lot. I feel like when it had nothing to do with that. It was just literally, I was just showed up for work.
I like it.
Yeah, showed up for work.
I like it.
It was a lot of fun. So yeah, it's happened.
When did you start doing the YouTubing stuff? Like what year?
2009. It's very 19.
2018.
Was it 2018?
Okay.
So was it the end of the right? It's January of 2018 is where it got started, because it had been a year. It had been a year when we started going into the pandemic. So was it 19 or 18? Right around that time.
Yeah.
But Amanda mentioned a story. When I was little, I was sick one day and I was too sick to go to school. And my mom had a rule. She's like, if you're too sick to go to school, she's like, then you need to stay in your room, just rest in the bed. And I couldn't go watch TV.
Yeah. And
I was bored. And so I went down. We had a bookshelf of all these books. Mom's like, read. And they had this book there. It's called The First Quarter Century on Disneyland. And it's just history.
Mm-hmm.
And I just took that book, and you talk about Pirates Caribbean. They had a whole, I'd say a fourth of the book is all about Pirates Caribbean.
Yeah.
And I was reading about like how they designed it. And it was so fascinating to me that's when I got my love for the history of Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started gobbling it up and trying to learn all that. So I just think it's fascinating. It's just really cool. Yeah.
No, I agree. Okay, moving on. What is the best and worst part about being a social media influencer?
Ooh, you go first.
I think that the best part is we get unique opportunities that aren't really normal.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest with you, I never expect it. So whenever something nice like that happens, I'm just pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
We've been invited to some really cool events. They have a club at Disneyland called Club 33. It's like this exclusive. We've been invited to go to that club, which I think never would have happened. That was just a really cool blessing. I love that. And I think it's cool. My favorite thing about Provost Park Pass is our community. We've created
that's what I was going to say. The number one is just all of the people that we've met, we've become friends with. We've met a lot of them in person, and connections is really, really, really awesome. Mm-hmm. So even people we haven't met in person, we feel like we know because we're connected through this love of theme parks or love of Disney or whatever it is. So the community is awesome. I would say that's the number one for me too.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing about it is, of course, there's some people out there who can be really negative, and so in our videos. One of the things I try to do is I try to say like a positive message, and that was because from personal experiences I had some dark times, and so I try to do a positive message. And when I first started doing those positive messages, there were some people who were kind of mean, and they kind of ripped me apart, and it rattled my confidence. I was like, I don't know. I was just kind of like, should I keep doing this or not? And then one day this as a family actually came up to me. And the dad was so excited, and he kept like, this is my son, can you get a picture of my son? I was like, sure. And then as they're walking away, the dad, he like put his arm around me and like walked me off, and he's like, you saved my son. He's like, he was on the verge of like getting ready to commit suicide, and your video, and there's that message where you said, you matter.
Yeah.
And he goes, it stopped my son, and my son came and talked to me right after. And the second the dad told me that, I was like, I don't care anymore if people make fun of me so I think it was the hardest part. But now I've kind of got a point where I just get desensitized to it. Like there's always some negatives out there, negativity. I feel like the world is slanted toward negativity right now, so I'm just trying to say something positive and be positive about it.
I would tend to agree with you on that. Unfortunately, we are kind of leaning towards where the things that get the most attention are negative.
Yeah.
And we need to do a better job of highlighting the story like you just said.
Well, and when we first started our channel, Amanda told me, she's like, we made a decision, and this is through Amanda's vision. She figured out, she's like, we're only going to do positive.
Yeah.
She's like, it's a lot of times people do it for quick clicks or like get a lot of people to say something real sensational, like this is the worst experience I've ever had. And then there's really nothing there. They're just saying that and so we're like, we're just going to try to be more positive. I think that's why we have such a great community, because then people like the positivity. They want that positivity. It's not as much of it.
it's interesting because there's a guy I follow also on social media. His name's Andy Frisella, and he talks about how social media is becoming a battling ground for who's the biggest victim.
Oh yeah,
Like who could put the saddest story
online?
online?
I think it happens a lot.
Who could put the "what was me" story online, as opposed to putting the man, I championed the day and I kicked butt and yeah, things may be tough, but you power through it. And yeah, I honestly love those little messages where it's you could tell you're doing one thing and be like, all right, now you come over. It's like when Mr. Rogers has his little exactly.
Yes,
little
absolutely.
pep down talk with you.
Like the Mr. Rogers.
That's
of
the best compliment I ever got.
It's the best
Yeah.
compliment.
It's interesting because I'm not like a vlogger. I don't just walk around and aim the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell a story and have facts. And we have
right.
when I
You
go,
rarely vlog.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a
and
theme.
people are very good at that. That's just not my forte. But also, what you're talking about, I am more private. I know that sounds a little weird, but I don't. My private life is private, and what people are seeing is just seeing me at Disneyland and telling facts. I would never want to share my sadness over that because it's too for me. It's too personal.
Yeah.
Other people have no problem with that, so it's a different mentality.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I think it's great. And,
oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, I love the little okay, what's Chris going to tell me today?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay, last question. And you kind of already talked about one already.
Okay.
If this isn't your best one, what's some of your favorite stories while filming in the park? Because I've noticed a couple of times where you'll be doing, then I'll be like, all right, click, and it's because somebody got your attention to do something.
Yes.
That
And
happens
it's
a lot.
I wonder what happened right there. And
Yeah, so that happens a lot when I'm usually filming. And I tell people in the videos, if you ever see me at Disneyland, and if I'm filming, I don't care. You come up and say hi. And I used to edit so I used to always edit that whole part of being where I got interrupted out.
Mm-hmm.
But people said, no, keep at least that part in because it helps. The reason I keep that in there is there's a mother I had and her son was very shy.
Mm.
He wanted to talk to me, but he was so afraid. But because he saw that other people had approached me, it gave him a little bit of confidence. So when I'm at Disneyland, if I'm filming, or people always are like, hey, can I stop by? Can we talk baseball? I love baseball. Or can I get a picture? Or let's talk about Disney or whatever. I have no problem with that. I love it. I love just chit-chatting with them and talking with them. So you'll see that's what that is people come in. I don't generally show them because I want to respect their privacy because I don't think that's I've had a lot of people say, you got to show the families. But I'm like, there's kids and we want to respect privacy. But that's a lot of fun. So, yeah,
have you had a story where somebody's kind of been they have this starstruck moment with you?
Amanda's mobbed. She's okay. I'm going to say this is what. Whenever people come up to me, the two things that they always say, they're like, "Oh, well, you're way taller than we thought you were," because they think. And then the other is the second question I always ask is, "Where's Amanda? Is Amanda here?" And so I'm always like, "Oh, I'm just chopped liver, right? It's Amanda."
Oh, sure, Amanda.
Yeah, it's always Amanda. But Amanda she's so kind to when anybody ever comes up to her and do this. So yeah.
It's really sweet. People are very sweet in the park, and I really appreciate their kindness because I just feel like I'm a normal, stay-at-home mom from Utah, and it's very sweet when people come up. And I've had people that start to cry or they're shaking, and I'm able to just give them a big hug and just be like, "Thank you so much for coming up and saying hi to me." It's such an honor to be able to meet these people in person and chit-chat and talk, and even just around daily life. It's not always in the park, but I was at the post office and I got to talk to the guy there for forever. And then we had this huge line behind me because we were just talking about theme parks and he recognized me. And so just, again, going back to that positive aspect of having this channel, it's the community and the people that you get to meet and connect with.
I have to say these things about Amanda though, because I love it. During the pandemic, we did she did some cooking at home with Amanda. Mm-hmm. And this is not a slight against my wife because my wife's near perfect, but she's not the strongest cook, right? But we've had so many people come up and tell us, they're like, "Thank you for posting a video where it's not always perfect." Because every time it's a cooking video, it just comes out amazingly perfect. And so it's like, "Hey, look at this amazingly. It's the Mona Lisa." And Amanda's is burned or crispy or whatever. And people loved it. They're like, "I tried to make it too and it burned," or whatever. And so they love that. And the other thing that I think is interesting, Amanda, because we came to Utah, she learned about what are these? What are they called? The dirty sodas and that's a big thing here in Utah. So she did a video on our channel showing people how to pour cream into their diet, to their Dr. Peppers and the things like that. And people have loved that. Like, they couldn't believe it. And it's so fun to see people like, I do that. They all shake their drinks at Amanda. And they're like, I do what you do.
Into the Coke. Because I don't think Disneyland has Dr. Pepper,
Yeah, it's Coke.
which
Coke,
is a shame because I love Dr. Pepper. I'm just putting that out into the universe that maybe Disneyland should get Dr. Pepper. Anyway.
So, yeah.
I agree. Yeah, Dr. Pepper for Disneyland.
I love it.
No,
Yeah, she absolutely loves it.
that's awesome. It sounds like you guys have, man, just a lot of fun stuff going on. And
Yeah.
like YouTubing is, or filming, I don't even want to call it YouTubing, but like putting your content out there online for, like you said earlier, people to just scrutinize the ever-loving hell out of.
Yeah.
But yet, nobody else that writes those negative comments would ever dare do anything that you're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
I apprate that. Thank you for saying that.
And it's the honest truth. I mean, anytime somebody degrades you, I have two initial reactions. One, like, I want to shove my fist through their face.
Yes.
And
All right,
two,
reaction right there.
and two, I feel like I need to give them a hug.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you said. So it's interesting because I've had lots of people come and tell me, they're like, please don't ever stop these messages. We need that. And then they'll tell me, they're like, if you do get flack or people make fun of you, they're like, it's really about them.
It's a cry for help.
Something is
almost.
going on there.
Yeah.
And that's really going on at them. And that actually helps me think about it. So I try not to take it personally. Like, okay, they're upset. Why are they upset that I'm telling them that they're good?
Mhm.
It's not me that they're upset at, really, even though they're focusing on that moment. It's something's going on there. And that helps me have a little more empathy to the situations, for sure. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's you have to be like, how could somebody be so mean over something that's supposed to be good?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But then you're just like, well, God, if they're that upset about something good, I really don't want to see what they're like just in their own thoughts.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure if you guys know this. I do know some trivia about Warner Brothers. Is that, you know, that this is not Disney. You know that Porky Pig is actually a black belt. He's a pork chop.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I was going to say, wait a minute. I know this one.
That even got me, and I'm used to your humor.
That's as fast as I can think of one off the fly.
All right, moving on to our fight scene. We got Goofy versus Donald. So first round, we've got Goofy in. Let's take the skiing movie. Like, we've got Goofy trying to teach Donald how to fight.
Okay.
And they're basically going to beat each other up, or who could be the best goofball, so to speak. Okay. So obviously, I'm Team Goofy. Like, he will beat Donald up just by not trying to beat him up, and like moving around and like, hey, you do it like this, and then he swings and Donald ducks, and then he comes around and hits him again with his foot, and it's it's like I almost envision like a Jackie Chan fight scene.
Yeah, I love Jackie Chan too.
So, like, who you got?
I got Goofy. I think just the fact that I don't think he ever feels pain.
No.
I think he can get hit with anything and be like, oh, okay. I do like Donald Duck, though, as a character. He does have, I mean, he's got his different personas, right? He's got Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
He can throw money, you know. He can just start buying things.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, he was a part of like certain videos that promoted certain propagandas.
Yeah.
But you know,
he was a soldier.
He was a soldier.
Yeah.
So he's got a whole bunch of experience, but you can't really. I think Goofy's just otherworldly, and you can't really like beat him.
I love that. Goofy.
Goofy.
I'm also biased.
So it's interesting because you told me we were talking about Goofy and Donald kind of like fighting who would win. I think that might be the only scenario though where I think Goofy might have an advantage in the skiing world, in the skiing realm, because Donald is it's not necessarily clumsy, but Goofy's clumsy in a way, but it always ends up being a benefit.
Yes.
It always ends up benefiting him, and so he's going to have that benefit over Donald.
It's like Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
So, perfect.
Yeah, so I agree. Now we're going to do it where it's like a kind of a street fight. Like Donald is mad, and
Yes.
like, you know, he goes on those rage fits.
Yes.
Steam coming out of his ears, face is
exactly.
red.
And all of a sudden, Goofy's the first person that walks in the door.
Okay.
Okay. In this instance, I'm going to have to go with Donald. Like, if you get him in those rage modes and you're the first one he sees, like, goodbye, adios, you're toast.
Yep.
I go with Donald as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. Donald as well. When Donald has some anger issues, and he would really let it fly.
Well, I think so. Go back to your skiing one. Goofy would win. I think Goofy's a how do you say that?
Pacifist.
Pacifist.
Yep.
So they're fighting. Donald's probably going to win because Goofy would just back away.
Yeah.
But in that first scenario, Goofy's going to win because somehow his ski's going to hit Donald.
Yep.
And it's just going to rebound off of him.
This
Yep.
situation is Donald.
But this situation here, it's just Donald taking his rage out. I think Goofy's just going to let him have the win. Let him have the win.
So it's 1-1.
1-1. There we go.
Now the last one
Okay.
is if we just threw him in a ring and they put gloves on. Okay,
There
now
we go.
going back to what you were talking about with Goofy Boo being more of a pacifist,
Yeah.
I still see him pulling this one out because I think Donald's going to hit him more.
Uh-huh.
But in the act of hitting him, Goofy's going to smack him back.
He's gonna-
Just
wait,
on
he's gonna-
accident.
So like
Bounce
the punch in the head, he's going to fall down, but then
Yeah, and
just
he's come
spring
back
back and
up
hit
and like him again.
Yeah.
Or like he hits him in the stomach and it like
Yeah.
creates this wave to his fist and
Yes.
then whacks him right in the
That's
head.
a strong argument.
Like I think that's
Yeah.
how Goofy will take him out.
I agree.
I
Yeah.
think Goofy has the height and the reach as well.
Yeah.
If you're going like
If we're going
traditional boxing.
Okay.
So I think he might have this one.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I just think Goofy's goofiness is going to really benefit him in this situation.
So the thing about it is, I think Donald might actually take it in a boxing ring.
Yeah.
Because I know that Donald's he's gonna pull his like shorts up really high
Yeah.
so he can't hit below the belt.
Exactly.
And he's gonna cheat.
Let's find
and-
some crafty way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Goofy's not gonna know what's gonna happen, and
No.
Donald's just gonna go over there and just pummel him. And I think what's gonna happen is he will tackle Goofy and just won't let him off the floor. If
Yeah.
you can keep him on the ground,
Yeah.
he's gonna win. But if,
So fun.
So we got 3-4. I like
Mixed
all the
judges
arguments.
here.
Yeah.
We got a split decision. I like it.
Whatever it is.
All right, moving on to the final segment is our shout outs. So you've already kind of shouted out Comic-Con coming up.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
FanX, I should say.
Yes, absolutely. And then just to watch our YouTube channel,
Yeah.
if you like travel, theme parks, Disneyland, Universal, anything like that, even dad jokes, you can find us easily. Even if you just type in Park Pass on YouTube, it will pop right up.
Yeah. And I want to shout out to, and I'll tell them, our community. We have what's called a Patreon community.
Yeah.
And it's this close knit community we have, and we make these special videos just for them. And so I just want them, we'll tell them, though I'm sure they're listening, just want you guys to know we appreciate you guys. We really couldn't do this without you guys, and we love your support, and I think you're amazing.
Yeah, Patreons, thank you for allowing
Yeah.
them to continue to
Yeah.
spread the message that they are. Because I know, like I said, I've heard about it ever since Miles has been training.
Yes.
But ever since I'm like, hey, I really should have them on here.
Yeah.
I've been watching them religiously, and it's almost kind of like a daily routine now.
Awesome.
It's like I got to get up, I got to log
So
in, and be
fun.
like, I got to watch the Provo Park Pass.
I have to say
Thank
this.
you.
We get. Now I'm trying to toot our horn, but we get asked to do podcasts on a pretty regular basis. When Amanda told me that you had asked us,
Mhm.
I literally stopped. I was like, oh, "Are you serious?" I was so excited to
Yeah.
come here and do this because this is such an amazing part of Miles' life,
Mhm.
and I love to be here. And so it makes you just. Thank you. I feel honored that you asked us to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Thank you so
our
much.
shout out is obviously you guys being
So,
here.
oh, thank you.
And because I know you're both like extremely busy and we got to cut it off soon, so I don't want to take too much of your time. But yeah, just taking the time to BS with us effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved hearing
Love
the history of it. I love to have you come back on again and let's do some like hardcore Disney history.
Absolutely.
Love to. You let us
Like-
know.
Talk
We'll come
about
back.
Disneyland.
Yeah,
all day.
I loved hearing about Disney facts like that.
Yeah.
Like, is it really true that Walt's apartment was when you walk in and it's to the left?
Oh,
Yep.
absolutely.
It's right above the fire station right there.
And what's the symbolism of the light?
So the light is when he would walk into the park, the cast members then would turn the light on to let other cast members know, hey, Walt's in the park.
Oh, wow.
So they could let him know, like, Walt's in the park. So that way their people are like in the best behavior because
Yeah.
they know that he was a perfectionist. And so after he passed away, they turned that light on to let everybody know he's always in the
He's
park.
still always in the
Yeah,
park.
yeah.
I think that's a great little
Excellent.
message. But yeah, we'll definitely have you guys on again
Well,
to
thank
give
you
us
so
some
much.
more Disney history. And again, make sure to go out and find their YouTube page, like it, subscribe, do all
Should
that
put it in
stuff.
the comments.
Yeah, we'll put it in the
Yeah.
comments down below to make it even easier for you. And Again, thank you for taking the time to hang out with
You
us.
bet, absolutely. It's our pleasure.
We won't keep you any longer, but make sure you kick it with us next time, guys.
Kick it with us next week. Bye, everyone.